Welcome to Speaking Cinema, serious movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you atop the anvil of Crom right here in Hollywood, California. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Listen, rate, review, subscribe, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes. I am your host, Tulsa Jibber Jabber. With me today, Kevin the Destroyer of Pizzas. Kevin. This week on the Jibber Jabber, we kick off our Summer of 1982 special. Many great films that came out that summer. We're going to examine some of the choices of that influential year.
It was a hell of a couple months in the movie world.
Not all of them were well received at the time,
But looked back on
in a very positive light.
Yes.
So that's
why we're here.
Yeah, so, an interesting phenomenon, because you look at, no one can say, 91, best year in cult movies, or, you know what I mean? But, in terms of fanboy movies, no better than the summer of 82.
It was
stacked. And if you go out to the whole of 82, even further stacked. So, pretty crazy. Our first film, Thief, Warrior, Gladiator, King. 1982's Conan the Barbarian. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Starring Sandahl Bergman. Starring Gary Lopez. With James Earl Jones and Max von Sydow. Directed by John Milius. Screenplay, Milius and Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Based on the created works of Robert E. Howard. Produced by Dino De Laurentiis and his company. Put out into the world by Universal. If you're not familiar, a barbarian trained in the arts of war joins with thieves in a quest to solve the riddle of steel and find the sorcerer responsible for the genocide of his people.
That's a great story. That's awesome.
What a setup to what we're about to see. This was Arnold Schwarzenegger's first major leading role. Some people think it's his first time in a movie. Not true. He had been in other much more Bobo movies than this.
The Stranger, I believe, is one. The Handsome Stranger, or he plays the Handsome Stranger in this weird comedy western. And then, of course, his first movie, Hercules in New York.
Yes.
Where they completely dubbed over his voice because people thought nobody would understand him.
Right.
So.
And if you want to learn more about that, there's a great How Did This Get Made episode where they do Hercules in New York.
Yes.
And, Pretzi. Holy shit. So, this is the first starring role of Arnold Schwarzenegger, which kicked off his very successful film career through the 80s and 90s, which led to his very successful political career of the 2000s, which now leads us to where he is now, which is...
Mobile strike.
I think making movies to pay that alimony.
Exactly.
Because he fucked up. He was mostly known as a famous bodybuilder at the time and a bit player in various B movies. His first film, Hercules in New York, credits him as Arnold Strong. That's amazing. The film was shot in Spain over the course of 5 months. Schwarzenegger and Bergman did not have stunt doubles, as they couldn't find stunt people to match their respective bodies.
Yeah, because obviously Schwarzenegger is very large, and Sandahl Bergman, who is actually in a movie we did on this podcast.
Oh.
She's in All That Jazz.
Oh.
She's one of the lead dancers in the...
The redheaded one?
No, she's not redheaded. She's blonde.
Yes.
She's in the very sweaty dance scene with the airline, and she is topless.
Yes.
But she's very tall and very lean, muscular for a woman. And it's that's a very hard body double to find.
You could say that she is very Valkyrie type.
She is Valkyrie-like. Yes.
And he is very barbarian typed. So
You sure could.
These are some rare body styles.
Yep.
So they had to do their own stunts. I mean, because it's an action movie,
Yep.
which led to various injuries and, one could argue, a great movie. Although, not worth anyone's life, but what can you do?
What can you do?
Oliver Stone's original script was intended to be a 4-hour fantasy epic with various creatures and critters for Conan to fight. Let's get that out of the archive and do that movie.
I mean, we got the resources now, so let's just do it. Legend of Conan, which is a supposed third sequel coming up. Let's dig that script out.
We'll get there. The script would have, Oliver Stone's script, was said to have cost $70 million to produce, and that's in 1982 bucks. So, I mean, that's by my math calculation, that's $1 billion? I don't know. Milius got the script cut down to a more manageable $20 million budget, which, again, in 1982 is still a lot of fucking money. These are, that's some coin to spend on a fantasy movie with an unknown star who doesn't speak English very well.
Yep.
But pretty perfect for a barbarian. You know what I mean? All things considered. The film went on to gross $70 million in its theatrical run and has thrived in people's hearts. One could argue this has paved the way for something like a Game of Thrones and something like a Lord of the Rings.
You know, where you can have a gritty fantasy. You know, this was kind of the first one of those. Fantasies were always, if they did them at all, which they really didn't until this point, were very sword and sandals or very glossy and safe. And this one is like there's blood and there's dirt and there's violence it's only over time if people kind of come to accept that.
Indeed. As of this recording, Conan, streaming on Netflix, is available on DVD, Blu-ray, and in digital formats. Blu-ray, according to Kevin, our own very Kevin here, the Blu-ray is worth it alone for the Arnold Schwarzenegger / John Milius commentary.
Yes, because they do it together. They're in the same room doing commentary, and it is fantastic.
The rumor is that all of Arnold's commentaries are just basically him being the biggest fan of himself.
It's pretty much it, but he does have some interesting insight.
Like what?
There's like little stuff like on the day that happened.
Oh, okay. Like, yeah, he's not just fanboying. He's talking about...
He's talking about stuff that actually went down and people that he met and how he trained and what he does. But then he's like, look at me, I'm sleeping. That's funny. And then John Milius is a guy who is well known for telling stories and being just a very interesting character. So it's like those two very different personalities, but they gel really well together. You can see why they became... this movie works so well is because they had such a good relationship.
Is he the guy who, like, when producers were arguing with him, he would just take out his gun?
Yep.
Yeah.
He would do that.
So, in terms of wild man cinema, I mean, I think the 80s is when it truly tampered down, you know, as the world became more corporate, but also as the world became better, because if you're like, hey, John...
Shouldn't be waving guns around.
Yeah, hey, John, like, you know, the camels, you know, the camel trainer says that we can't keep them in the sun like this, so we're going to have to move them, and he pulls out a fucking revolver on you. I don't really think that's an appropriate...
Not the safest work environment.
Way to live. Kev, have you seen this movie? Where and when?
I have seen this movie.
Many times?
I don't know about many times, but did see it years and years and years ago on VHS. Only recently revisited it when I found it on Blu-ray for really cheap, and I was like, I should own Conan the Barbarian, and I fucking loved it the second time watching it. Or should I save that for second half, you think? Like, how I feel about it?
No.
Alright. Recently found it again on Blu-ray, watched it, really fell in love with it all over again. I think it stands up, not just as like an 80s movie, but as a high fantasy movie. I think it's one of the better ones in the genre, and it's just a really fucking cool movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen this movie. I want to say it must have been on the USA Network in the 90s at some point.
Yep.
And I probably saw it there, but...
And they might have been showing to Conan the Destroyer.
I know I've seen Conan the Destroyer. No, I must have... I've definitely seen parts of this because I remember him... Because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's things that happen in this movie that don't happen in the sequel. So I know I've seen this, parts of it at least. You know what I mean? But it's been a really long time. And I have seen the second movie, and that movie is a little bit more disorganized.
Yeah, that one's very kind of campy and plays up the comedy a lot in it, and it doesn't take it seriously. And Conan the Barbarian is like, it's a heavy movie. It doesn't really have a lot of light moments in it. It takes its subject matter as seriously as like Game of Thrones does.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second one is much more jokey and full of larf.
Which it was never intended to be. It was supposed to be like this R-rated trilogy, and then the second one kind of fucked it up.
You never know. But you said something very interesting a minute ago. You mentioned this is not only a good movie, but not only a good 80s movie, but a good movie. Before we dig into Conan further, let's talk about 80s cinema. Outside of when it's released, what makes an 80s movie an 80s movie? As opposed to a 70s movie, a 60s movie, is a whatever.
So, like, you know, the 60s was very, very experimental, I think. 70s was very gritty because of Vietnam and a lot of that. And the 80s, I think everybody kind of just wanted to have fun again, you know? But they also wanted that gritty aspect too. So I think that's when you really start seeing a lot of styles start coming together. So you get Arnold Schwarzenegger in a high fantasy movie. You get a movie that stars a little alien as its main character, E.T. You get Raiders of the Lost Ark. You get, Thrashing, which we just talked about. You get a lot of different styles all kind of mashed together. It's not just one thing or the other.
Right.
So this is the decade where everything starts getting thrown into the pot with a little ecstasy and neon thrown on top of it, and then we all go crazy.
I also think there's a particular film look to the 80s. I don't have enough technical information to describe. It's very bright.
It's pastels. It's all those pastels people have.
Right, but even in a period piece like this, there's a sense of like, even when we're in the dark, it's still just lit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, nowadays, if there's a scene in the dark, there's just no light. You just can't see shit.
Yep.
But in the 80s, there was like this, like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like, okay, turn off the light. And it's like, you turn off this light,
Yep.
but not the other lights. You know what I mean?
Well, you turn it off, and then it's like the really bright blue hue coming
Yes,
in,
yes.
and that kind of lights it up.
So there's an 80s style to lighting, and there's an 80s film stock look, and then there's also an 80s like melodrama acting.
Oh, yeah.
That is like everywhere in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's when like some TV stars started going in, and a lot of young actors, like this is the hot young kid. We're going to just put them in there. Are they Marlon Brando? No, but they'll put asses in seats.
Yeah. Speaking of the 80s, Tab or Crystal Pepsi?
Tab.
Ooh, what does Tab taste like?
Flat Diet Coke.
Is it diet?
No, they have like a regular Tab, but it's pretty. There's a reason why Coke prevailed.
I'm gonna say probably Tab because Pepsi tastes gross.
Yeah, Pepsi's kind of nasty.
Although I do respect the idea that like there's no need for Coke or Pepsi to be brown, right? There's no need for it to be sludge. It could look more like water.
Yep.
But instead of looking like water, they make it look like sludge.
Yep. I think it's there's a million market researchers know better than me, but that's the color that it tastes like.
I do think that in my mind.
Also, when I was working at the pizza place, we had a Pepsi guy come in. I told him, "Hey, you guys got any Crystal Pepsi in the basement?" He said, "Yes."
Ooh! Did he bring you any?
No, he never brought me any.
Bigger 80s event: Berlin Wall coming down or Who Shot JR?
You want to say Berlin Wall, but everybody was talking about Who Shot JR.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It was a frivolous time. Best non-Metallica 80s thrash band: Anthrax or Exodus? I will not accept Megadeth as an answer.
No, Megadeth sucks.
Anthrax.
On record. Anthrax.
Yeah,
yes,
Anthrax.
Totally. Although Exodus, underrated.
Well, but Anthrax rated just right.
Rated just where they need to be. Have a new album coming out, I think, this week.
Speaking of heavy metal, high fantasy metal, which is like Iron Maiden or Dio, or metal songs about war and death, Slayer and Metallica, or just leather pants metal, Judas Priest.
I'm going with the war and death metal. That's the ones I always want songs about, just really nasty stuff. I like my high fantasy metal. I've got Dio's Holy Diver, and those ones can be fun in a certain time, but I think as my daily listening routine, it's got to be the war and death metal.
It does. It does.
Yep.
Back to Conan talk. Familiar with the work of John Milius?
I am familiar with Milius.
Red Dawn, The Wind and the Tiger. He wrote Apocalypse Now. Created the TV show Rome. Walter from The Big Lebowski was inspired by him. He's a unabashed conservative nutbag.
Apocalypse Now is my favorite movie.
Oh,
of all
really?
time. Probably do it on this podcast sometime.
And we will.
Which he wrote like a spec script for it. Well, more than a spec script, he wrote a script, and Francis Ford Coppola came in and kind of changed it up to more what he wanted to do. There's a really great documentary. It was on Netflix. I don't think it is anymore. Just about his life. He's just a really interesting dude. A total SoCal guy, but
real Orange County, if you know what I'm talking about.
He loved surfing. He loved telling stories. And he loved his guns. And he loved his country. And he's this total, it's my way or the highway kind of dude. Mm-hmm. The ultra conservative. But he really had, unlike most ultra conservative filmmakers who make like shitty Atlas Shrugged and Dinesh, yeah, and like Dinesh D'Souza, these fucking morons.
God's Not Dead.
God is not dead. Yeah, all this shit. He has some actual like real filmmaking chops that he can pull off. And so that's what really sets him apart. He knows his way around a camera, and is not afraid to like, we're gonna build this set 20 stories high, or we're gonna make the snake a robot. We're not gonna do it stop motion. We're gonna put it on set.
I like robot snakes, guy. I like him.
You're gonna love Conan the Barbarian.
Interesting note: Milius was a gung-ho conservative who wanted to fight in Vietnam, but wasn't allowed to because he had asthma. Oliver Stone, liberal as they come, did fight in Vietnam and continues to champion left-wing agenda and policies. Interesting contrast, and apparently the middle of this is high fantasy, sword and sorcery.
Yep.
Screenplay.
It's always been an interesting idea of the people who actually go to war and actually fight people are some of the most left-leaning people I know. And it's the people that have never, like, they love their guns, but they've never killed anybody or never been that. And they're always the most, like, right-wing folks. It's an interesting contrast. Not to get too political on here.
But to get even further political, fun fact, John Milius is listed as a spiritual advisor in the credits of Chuck Norris's Lone Wolf McQuade.
Which I just love that. Spiritual advisor in a Chuck Norris movie.
Although Chuck Norris apparently is also a conservative nut.
Total. Like, probably worse than Milius was.
Interesting. We talked about this a little bit. I'd like to go a little bit deeper. Conan is a genre of high fantasy, although you could argue it's sword and sandals as well. High fantasy explores a self-contained world that has no connection to our world at all. The world often have complicated political rules and social mores, influenced by our concepts of the past, but not directly, not a direct stand-in for them, not directly referencing them. And also a little bit more on the serious side, where they're taking these politics really serious. I think Game of Thrones is the best example of this, right?
Exactly.
Traditionally, these kinds of books and movies and things have alienated the casual viewers, but recently it's come more into fashion. Why do you think that is, and do you like that kind of stuff?
I do like it to a point. I think they can really get up their own ass sometimes. Mm-hmm. And one I can think of is the Chronicles of Narnia series. I think is
so you would pick Middle Earth over Narnia, is what you're saying?
In a million years.
I agree with you.
Not just because I think the Lord of the Rings movies are infinitely better, but I think they tell a more universal story and a much more interesting one. And some are just, again, totally just in their own head and completely inaccessible. But I do think Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones...
Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, like you just said, that's like the pinnacle of what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily know why they're suddenly accepted, because that kind of stuff was always in the back room of comic book stores. It's like that's where those things lived and thrived.
I think the reason why is I think the audience now is much more genre friendly, right? We're in a period of time where people bag on these things, right? There's a lot of noise about how people hate superhero movies, a lot of noise about how people hate, fandom and cosplay and what you would call San Diego Comic-Con culture.
Yeah.
But if you look at the statistics in terms of just popularity, money, those things are super popular, right? Mm-hmm. Like people,
how many think pieces do you read every day after a Game of Thrones episode?
Right.
It's like they're everywhere.
And for every think piece about how Comic-Con sucks now, there's 100 people who went, right? Uh-huh. There's 500,000 people who make that trek down there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think the audience is accepting of this. And I think when we grew up with the culture, the generation above us is very dismissive of things like Power Rangers and Pokemon, and not all of those things lasted, right? But I think we were indoctrinated into these very large worlds that people had created. So I think, something like a Game of Thrones in a weird way is like an adult version of Pokemon, right? It's its own bizarro world.
That's a great way to put it.
With its own bizarro rules, right? Like in Pokemon, it's like every animal in this universe is a little monster that has this weird evolutionary track. And then that influences the whole world. So basically, is everyone a vegetarian? People don't eat these Pokemon, right? They all, and so, you know what I'm saying, in Game of Thrones is this, I think, the logical adult version of this, right? Yeah. Where it's like, there's this wall, there's 10 years of winter, there's these zombies that are ice people or whatever the fuck, there's dragons, you know what I'm saying, it just goes that way. And I think Where
And yeah, it's thought of as like, oh, Pokemon, are you in 8th grade? Also, I really hate the Lannisters. You know, the Lannisters just piss me off.
But I also think sports culture is an extension of this, right? Where someone's like, I really hate the Niners. Like, you know, back when this guy used to own it is different than when this guy used to own it. And it's like, that is so fucking nerdy. It's unbelievable, right?
Exactly.
And I also think that, like, there's a dismissiveness of things from your childhood, right, as being frivolous. Like, I remember my aunt being like, oh, skateboarding, yeah, I can't wait till you're over this. And it's like, and I never really, I mean, I don't skateboard anymore, but I still keep up with it in a way. You know what I mean? I still check on it.
Yeah.
I think that you could just love what you love. And I think right now we're in a time societally where that's cool. I kind of do not look forward to when that goes away, if that ever does go away. I don't know if we've come to a sea change here where we all just love what we love and that's okay and fandom is all right, or if there'll be a backlash and it'll all be dropped.
I don't think it's going to go away, but I think what might happen, and this is what I hope doesn't happen, is that everything's going to get so segmented that you can never branch out to anything else. It's like, I only watch the fantasy shows that have dragons and boobs and unicorns. But then there's the fantasy shows that only has dragons and unicorns but no boobs. And then it's like, I think it's going to get segmented that way.
In a certain way, we're already there. I mean, like, if you look at what's going on, and I'll say this till the fucking cows come home. If you look at, like, what the CW does with their DC universe, it's fucking amazing. And if I tell anyone that, they're like, oh, on the CW, so what is it? Just like a chick show? It's like, no. It's a fantasy fucking comic book show. You know what I mean? Like, and it's in car culture, in sports culture, in pop culture, people have these things of like, this thing is this, and it will never be anything else. And those people have to kind of age out, and the young generation have to come in to discover, to really change anyone's mind on these kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like, you look at like sports right now, it's like people are like, the Lakers are so great. It's like, they're my team, they're great, whatever. It's like, if you got into sports in the year 2016, your favorite team ain't gonna be the fucking Lakers because they're a bunch of donkeys.
They're terrible.
You know what I mean? And I think
you're gonna be a Warriors fan,
right?
You're gonna get on that,
yeah.
And then 10 years from now, the Warriors might suck,
and you'll be back to the Lakers. But it's this weird thing. It's just, and I think all fandoms are like that. Like, there's a show called The 100, which is basically Mad Max meets fucking Game of Thrones. It's on the CW network, and people will not watch this show because they're like, it's on the CW. But it's like Mad Max beats Game of Thrones. Fuck yes! That is exactly the show that I want to spend 20 hours a year watching. You know what I mean?
And more than a few blogs I go on have said that show's better than Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
They'll throw that gauntlet down. I've heard it. I've seen it.
You watch that show?
I don't watch that show.
You watch that show? I mean, you watch that show.
It's on the CW, though.
It's on the CW, so I mean, clearly it's just Gossip Girl in a post-apocalyptic universe.
Yep.
I also think that these things fall apart when character and plot are not first, when the world is first.
Exactly.
And you see this in novels, you see this a lot. Like, I'm reading a novel called Armor, and right now I'm like, they've been talking about fucking how the suit works for God feels like, 20 goddamn minutes, and it's just like, I don't care. Like, I want to know what happens to the guy in the suit.
And that kind of circles back to what I mean when it says it's up its own ass. It cares more about the world building and that bullshit before we ever care about a character.
Which we all love. We all love the world building, and the world building is necessary, and it is what makes it great. But that's the sizzle. The steak is the characters and the plot.
Yep. And if you don't have that, then nobody's going to care.
And, you like steak and you like sizzle, but you like them together, and that's when it's magic.
Yep.
Right? You can have one or the other, and that's okay. But when you have them both together, that's when it's undeniable.
Yep.
What do you like better, orcs or goblins?
Orcs. They got armor. Nasty weapons.
Scarier Jim Henson creation, the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, or David Bowie's Labyrinth bulge.
That bulge is
terrifying.
Terrifyingly large. Wow, David Bowie.
But also, the Dark Crystal is also terrifying and gross. So
Bowie's all over the place.
Hate it. I hate everything Jim Henson's ever done. I'll go ahead and say it. Gandalf?
Sorry, all you... We just lost our 12-year-old girl fan base.
I don't care. So I don't care. No, 12-year-old girl, 50-year-old man fan base.
That's true too.
Gandalf, Dumbledore, or Merlin?
Gandalf.
Dumbledore for life.
Gandalf.
Fuck that guy.
Gandalf.
Skyrim or the World of Warcraft?
Oh, Skyrim. A million times. Sometimes I'll just fire up Skyrim on a little Saturday. Just go quest.
Magic the Gathering for life.
Oh boy, I never understood that game.
It's fun.
My brother attempted to teach me when it first started getting big. And
There's an app on the phone that is the game on the app. No physical cards. No need to interact with anyone else.
no stones.
No stone. Totally fun.
All right.
It's complicated as shit, but once you get used to it, it's fun.
Skyrim.
All right. What do you think? We talked a lot about Arnold in his films and Last Action Hero episode. Great episode. Episode
Yes.
like 5 or whatever. What do you want to see out of Arnie that he's never done? Do you think that the Legend of Conan third movie is going to actually come out?
God, I hope it does. I hope it gets made. There's lots of talk about it happening. I think you could really make something cool with a Conan movie. I'd like to see Arnold just kind of get back to his roots a little bit. I think they've tried, but never like a true Arnold movie. Like Last Stand kind of tried to do it, and they were kind of successful, but not really.
Well, I think that the times have changed, and you can't with the one-liners and all that kind of shit. I think that's not cool anymore.
But I think we circled around enough that it can be almost meta, like to a point, and they're self-consciously making one.
I agree with you. It would have to be done well, though, because I think people are very dismissive of that. They don't like the idea of someone being aware enough to try to engineer something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's this false perception that everything in the 80s or everything in your childhood just happened to happen and that no one was plotting it. You know what I mean? And if you plot it now, you're abusing my childhood.
Yep.
Like that, abusing my childhood. And, it's like, it was always like, whenever an Arnold tied onto a movie, you don't think that they gave some screenwriter a pass just to add one-liners into it?
Yeah, exactly. You can, that's the Arnold formula. Part of me wants to see him go back to that. Part of me likes to see him really tackle just a drama, maybe. See if he can really do
I don't know if he has the chops on that.
He probably doesn't have the chops.
Woody Allen movie?
Hey, that could work, though. He's resurrected careers before.
I want to see
Quentin Tarantino.
Ooh. I want to see a Conan movie with Arnold that is the Game of Thrones equivalent to a movie. It just balls to the wall, not holding back, like not explaining shit to the audience. Like, hey, listen, if you're not familiar with what we're doing and what's going on, who Crom is, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, I want a Deadpool style, not like Deadpool style goofy, but Deadpool style like listen, if you don't know who the X-Men are, you're gonna be confused, and we're not gonna stop and explain anything.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's like you have a little responsibility.
Right.
Get on it.
Yeah. So, I do think Conan is a movie that you can make a Conan movie every 5 years, and that would be totally fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Because you want it to, you don't just want it turned out and look cheap. Conan movie, based on this one we're about to watch, should be just big and grand and
right. But I think
massive.
and I've said this a million times with podcasts, and I'll continue to say it till the day I die. There is something intrinsically awesome about a plot, which is a guy runs from this side of the continent to that side of the continent and kicks ass the whole way. And I think it lends itself to iterations of like, this time we're in the forest. This time we're in the desert.
Yep.
This time he's chasing something. This time he's running away from something, etc., etc.
I mean, critics always like, oh, this movie's episodic. And it's like, so fucking what if it's episodic?
Yeah.
Does it all work? Does it all tie together?
Are they
Is it
cool
entertaining?
episodes? Yeah.
It's like, who cares if it's like, just the fact that it's episodic is not intrinsic to it being bad.
Indeed. And speaking of intrinsically not being bad, let's fucking get out of here and watch this movie. And we're back.
We are back.
Kev, when and how did you watch this movie?
I watched my Conan Blu-ray on Wednesday of this week.
I watched this movie on DVD.
I will say
Got it from the library.
That Blu-ray,
Support your local library, kids.
That Blu-ray restoration is quite good.
Right.
It's looking good in HD. See every ripple in Arnold's muscles.
Indeed, I bet you can. I believe that. So, just to throw it out there, generally, what do you think?
The more I watch this movie, the more I like it.
Right.
Fun's not the right word, but it's the first word I can think of. It takes itself seriously. There's a lot of blood in it. This does not look like a world you'd want to live in. But this movie is fun to watch, I think.
Fun to watch, indeed.
Yep. So I like its epic scope. I think overall the special effects hold up with one grand exception, which we will get to.
Indeed, we will.
But it's just an enjoyable movie. I just like it a lot.
Okay, so two things. First thing, I don't think I ever saw the movie fully through because I do not remember the opening at all, where they're pouring steel and making swords and the
with that awesome sword font. Oh, that font's cool.
And and Conan's dad, DTA, don't trust anybody. Like, ooh, that's harsh, man. That is
All
harsh.
you can trust is steel.
Here's the thing. This movie's fucking fantastic. Here's the thing. The movie's fucking fantastic. And that's not really in question. The question is, why? Why does this fantasy world work? Why has no one ever come close to recreating it, including the same people who made this one when they made the sequel, which is nowhere near as good as this?
Emilius wasn't in charge of that sequel, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean?
But
like,
it was the same production company, same...
You think that it would maybe be, a peg down, but that movie's like 10 pegs down from this one. You know what I mean?
No question.
So, like, the question is, why is this so great? Because it's great. And I love it. And it's fucking fantastic. You know what I mean? And this isn't, like, nostalgia talking in the same way of, like, it's not like Star Wars where I had all the toys and grew up rewatching. I watched it when it was on TV. I liked it. You know what I mean? But as an adult watching it now, it's like, this is a brilliant movie.
Yeah, and I didn't grow up with Conan the Barbarian either. Like,
Right.
I knew he existed, but obviously that movie is too violent for my house.
Right.
So,
And you weren't reading the fucking Savage Sword of Conan, the comic books.
No, was not.
You know what I mean? So, first things first, it's not a corny movie. The subject matter could be considered corny by lesser creatures, people who find fantasy to be intrinsically bad or intrinsically childish or intrinsically frivolous, right? So, but we're not talking about them, you know what I mean? Because in that case, this movie would be the same thing as like a Beastmaster or Sword and the Sorcerer, and it's not. You know what I mean? It's not those movies.
It'd be like me watching a romantic comedy. It'd be me watching a Nancy Meyers movie of like, this is not going to do anything for me. So just turn it off,
right,
J Brones.
But we're not J Brones here. We're taking this serious. So, first thing I want to comment on is that Conan never fucking talks in this movie.
Yeah, he has
like
double-digit lines at the most.
Yeah.
And that might have a 1 or a 2 in front of it.
Right. And another thing that I think is really important is that the music is very up and it's very interesting and fun music, but it doesn't change a lot scene to scene, and it doesn't oversell what's going on. And we'll get into that too. But that's my thesis statement of two things I think that are critical to the success of this movie.
And the music for this movie is used in temp scores a lot.
Interesting.
So for those of you not familiar, when they have like a rough cut of the movie, music's not done yet, obviously, they'll throw in just like random score from other movies just to get
a sense of what's going on.
Somebody's watching it, they get a sense of what they're going for. And apparently this soundtrack is used a lot in temp scores.
That's fascinating to me. Because it's good.
Because it's a fucking great soundtrack.
So I want to start with the villain, Thulsa Doom.
Played by James Earl Jones. With lovingly straight black hair.
And bangs.
Zooey Deschanel bangs.
When he beheads when we first meet Thulsa Doom, rolls into Conan's village, his men kill everyone. Thulsa Doom beheads Conan's mother with Conan standing right there. So metal.
Yep. With his father's sword, I believe.
Yes, indeed. As a villain, he gives a lot. This is like the one movie where the villain monologues and it totally makes sense. It is 1,000 years old. He's seen it all, and he's trying. You get a sense of like, not like loneliness, but he's trying to explain the world to someone. He's like, you don't get it. You know what I mean? He's like, I understand what power is. I figured it out. You know what I mean? And it's just like, he's like a guy who it seems like he's figured something out, and he's trying to tell people about it. But he's a powerful man, and he's lonely at the top.
He's basically a cult leader.
Yeah,
like he's shepherding a lot of people who are not as smart or as powerful as he is, and so he's the only one that knows and needs to pass it on to somebody. And what I also like too, in that scene where he's monologuing about it, Conan is in no position to hurt him or kill him.
Right.
Like so many villains are. It's like, he can kill you right now. But like Conan is incapacitated.
Yes.
So I think that's another key of like, and James Earl Jones is just, that voice and his acting is just, he is so brilliant in that individual scene.
Indeed. And then, there's a moment where Conan can kill him in the end of the movie, where he's like, I am your father, I created you, right? And you really do get the sense that, like, he believes that. He's not just saying it. He's like, he is a cult leader, he has this information, he feels like he is shaping the world. And it's kind of a legitimate claim, you know what I mean? Yeah. Based on what we've seen in the movie. Amazing villain. Another thing about this movie that's great is that it's distinctly R-rated.
Yes.
And I felt this way for a long time.
A harsh world.
Exactly. It's a harsh world. Everyone talks about it being a harsh world, and you see it as a harsh world. And I've felt this way for a long time, and I like these movies, but I'm tired of the Lord of the Rings movies and the Harry Potter movies having this bloodless fantasy. You know what I mean? It's
Lord of the Rings has some orc blood in it, but
yeah, a little bit.
I would say more like Chronicles of Narnia, or Harry Potter.
I still think that
people slash and it's off screen.
I still think that Lord of the Rings. I mean, you get some beheadings and stuff, but it's not. It doesn't come close to the level of like.
It's not Conan the Barbarian.
It's not Conan the Barbarian. You know what I mean? The action is great. There's a scene where Valeria, when they're escaping from Thulsa Doom's first temple, where Valeria chokes a guy with the well rope and then tosses him down, and as his momentum pulls the rope down, she grabs the other side of it and he's like tossed up. And that scene is just like, Fah! You know what I mean? Like, the action in here is just like, I don't know, it's just great.
It's brutal, it's fast, it's bloody, and we don't get big elongated set pieces. The longest one is like the ambush at the end. Yeah. But he's like rigged everything with traps. All great traps, by the way.
Yes. Shades of What's the Coming Predator.
Exactly. And but you feel like the sword hits and the metal clanging and flesh ripping and blood spurting. Like, you feel all that in a really visceral way. I think it's the sound design really pulling that off.
It's both. It's the sound design that sells you on what's happening, and it's the choreography of it where it's not like there's a million sword hits. It's like our swords are going to touch like 5 or 6 times, and then someone's going to die.
Exactly. Someone's going to get that kill shot in. It's going to be that quick, because these are trained warriors.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I like is the production design. There's these huge vistas of like desert or of nothingness, of rocky mountains and cliffs, and then there's like dotted with cities and like dotted with like temples. And it's really interesting. I mean, you'd think that they would have gone with matte paintings to make like these huge, like when you go to Thulsa Doom's like his main headquarters, it's like 1,000 steps and one temple, and you think that behind that temple there'd be like a whole city that they just paint in and you never really have to interact with, you know what I mean? But they don't do that. It's like this empty, harsh, like almost post-apocalyptic looking world, right, where it's like there's just nothing in it, a thing. And I feel like that is very evocative in a lot of ways. It does feel like a Franzetta painting.
Yeah, but it's all real. As far as I know, they didn't use matte paintings.
No. Yeah.
It feels like you can reach out and touch everything in it. Like, the set design is, all the textures are just very finely detailed, and like little details in like the outdoor sets and really carefully chosen locations. Right. And they shot it in Spain, which has a lot of different landscape. Right. And is very well thought out locations and how to use them and where everybody moves within it. It's just really cool.
Like, when they put Conan on the Tree of Woe, it's like, put him on the Tree of Woe, and you think like, oh, that's going to be like right outside the temple. It's like, nope, there's one tree in the middle of fucking nowhere, we're just going to crucify him.
Exactly. It's a hoof, and they literally crucify him. They don't tie him to that tree. He has fucking holes in his wrist. Right. They like nailed him to this tree.
Yeah. He takes it well.
He does. He does all right.
There's great visual storytelling. Everyone in this movie is a strong silent type, so you got to show, not tell, because there's no options, right? So at Doom's hideout, Valeria sneaks up behind a cult member, so you see her like kind of creeping around a corner, and there's like a row of cult women, and then we cut to whatever K-Dog's doing, and then we come back to Valeria, and now she's just wearing the costume. Yep. And it's great. Like, we know what happened. We know that she took her out, put on her outfit, and then rejoined the group. And it's like, but you don't need to show that.
My favorite visual storytelling moment in this movie is when Conan's running from the dogs. He falls down, he finds that hidden temple, finds Crom's remains.
Is that Crom's remains?
I think it's supposed to be Crom's remains. Huh. I think. It's somebody's remains.
Anyway, he just say Crom.
He says Crom. But he finds the sword, and he comes out. The dogs are still there. Hard cut. He's covered in dog pelts.
Yeah.
He killed all those dogs.
Right. And that's the thing is that, like, they you know, like, no one says, oh, I killed those dogs to survive. You know, or now that I have a weapon, I could take these dogs on. He just has the dog pelts. He killed them.
Yep.
It happened.
Straight up murdered them.
Yeah, it's like, but it's like there's fucking magic. Like, you show a man running from dogs. He picks up a sword. Then he's wearing the pelts. You fill in the blanks. It's great.
Yep. And you know, in the climactic sequence, do we see him set up every single trap?
No.
But we see the traps get into effect, like, as it moves on, and how they were thinking about their strategy. We see, like, a couple little things, like they set the big spike, and then, of course, that's the big, like, moment at the end. That spike just boom and impales the guy.
Right.
So yeah, it treats the audience like we're smart. You know, we're not just dumb blockheads who are here to see an action movie. There's a lot of stuff you just fill in, and they do it very efficiently.
Right. And I mean, and I feel like this movie has a reputation for being dumb, but it's not. It's like,
not.
And I mean, I think that's a judgment against Arnold and the things that he had made. I
mean, this was his first, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. But yeah, people think of, like, Raw Deal, Commando. It's just a lot of one-liners and
they feel like they lump everything together, but it's like, I don't see how you could. I see how you could lump this movie with all the other ones just based off of, you know, being judgmental against Arnold. But, like, at the time, did people look at this movie as dumb when it came out? Because I don't see how you could. You know what I mean?
I don't think people did. I mean, it was a huge hit, and I just don't get the sense that people thought, oh, this is just a dumb action movie. This was like the Lord of the Rings of its day, from what I could tell.
And style-wise, the movie never feels like it's holding back, right? When they want to do something, they do it. And that's
you'll climb up a 20-story tower made of snakes.
Right.
You know, it's, you know, you'll shoot a snake arrow, and, like, we're gonna do this shot where the snake's real, and then seamlessly blend it in where it's an arrow.
Right.
You know,
which was hidden again in an edit. Where it's like, he has a snake, and then he kind of, like, gently pulls it so it's taut, and then you cut away to someone else, and you come back, and then now it's, like, clearly just a prop.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, I feel like when you're a kid, or when you're, like, making movies, and when you're in college, you're like, oh, we can't do this scene because we can't show this. You know what I mean? But it's like, but you can always show it implication, and it works.
And smart edits, you don't think about it. It's like the editing, you know, editing is part of storytelling. It's like you make a cut on purpose. So if you're making purposeful cuts, it's not just to hide something. It's to give you a different piece of information. Oh, by the way, while I was giving you that, that's where I hid where the snake is now a prop that Thulsa Doom can shoot.
Right.
It's like, that's just really smart filmmaking.
Right. Every character has good motivation, simple motivation, but good motivation, right? Valeria is like, you know, like, I've never had it better than now. I've never had a lot for myself. I've never had, you know, like, a person for myself, and, like, I'm happy now. So let's not do this thing with the king because, like, we have something to lose now. We have this crew, right? And then Conan's like, no, I need to get my revenge. Does he say that? No. He just goes and does it. Mm-hmm. And then, but that explains why she comes back for him, right? Because she's like, I can't let him just die. You know what I mean? I feel connected to you. It's just so simple.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, there's nothing else to it. And people might, again, knock it because, oh, it's these really easy motivations. It's like, that's the world they live in. It fits.
Right.
Nobody's going to be too complicated.
They're all thieves.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want to have enough so I don't have to be a thief all the time.
There's no room to be super complicated in this world because you'll just die.
And no need. Yeah, exactly. Also, I think this is subtly done, and I think our impression of Arnold kind of paints this in retrospect, but I think if you just look at the work itself, right? They build up K-Dog to be this unbeatable force, right? He's a slave, and then he goes into this gladiatorial combat, and he's just murdering these fools, and then we see him after he gets free, and he's still murdering people and whatever, and then he goes up against Thulsa Doom and gets beaten and gets crucified and fucking dies, and then they bring him back, and then he kicks his ass again. You know what I mean? And like, yep. I think that's it. You don't think when he gets captured, you think, oh, he'll escape this. It's like, no, dude, he's fucked. And that really sells you on how powerful Thulsa Doom is.
Exactly. Yeah, he is like the only equal Conan even has. Because he's just tearing through. He's punching camels. He's killing people.
Fuck those camels.
Fucking camel was in the way, and he was drunk.
Yeah. I think people would call out the acting as being not good in this movie. I think that's like a thing that if you want to be like shitty, you'd be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But the acting, it's like, for the king, when he's trying to recruit them to rescue his daughter, that is some phenomenal acting.
The great Max von Sydow.
He's
great in everything.
He's giving you some Shakespearean kind of shit right here. And then, like, obviously with Arnold, they're protecting him, right? They're like, listen, you're not like a fucking great actor. Your grasp on the English language is good, but you have a heavy accent, right? So it's like they really pick and choose their battles, which I think people would say like that's not good, but like that's what media is, right? You hide your flaws and you accentuate your strengths, and every movie does this, right? Like a $200 million movie. Our strength is we have $250 million, so we'll put that all up on the screen. And our weakness is that a million different people touch this, so you have to hide that and make it seem like it's all one cohesive thought, right? That movie does that. This movie does what it does, which is when Conan says something, it's gonna be fucking awesome.
His first line of dialogue is not till 24 minutes into this thing.
And his first line of dialogue is,
"What is good in life? To crush our enemies, drive back their forces, and lay the lamentations of the women."
Right.
Booyah! Everybody's fucking great.
That's some fucking harsh. There's some harsh words, some harsh language right there. You know what I mean? That's not a man that you trifle with who says what's best in life. Basically, war.
Yep.
And the dude before him, who got the question wrong, said freedom. He said being on the open steppe with a horse and a falcon. It's like, so he's describing absolute freedom, having no cares in the world, just riding your horse. Being in the moment, being present, things that our current culture would think is like, no.
The guy's like, no, Conan.
Yeah, Conan's like, no, it's fucking murdering people.
Yep, that's the world they live in, and like that establishes it, and like that's the punctuation mark on that whole prologue. Is like, this is the world we live in.
Right. In this movie, I think another thing that makes it great is like there's little things that are made big. So Mako says, fire doesn't burn on this hill. He says it twice, right? Like, the fires don't burn on this hill. And then they light a fire for Valeria, and you're like, oh, there's nothing to that, right? It's like, there's two lines of dialogue, and someone fucking lighting a bunch of brush on fire, right? But that creates an effect because of just the expectation, right? So it's like, you know, there's gigantic snakes, there's fantasy, there's beheadings, and all of these things are very big, you know? But there's also the small thing like that. You know, just like, you can't light a fire here, and then you light a fire here. And it's just like, oh, shit.
There's a fire here.
And then there's when they're in the final fight, you know, one of the guys gets the trap sprung on him, and then the hammer guy is running up from a distance, and you just see him running. He's far away, and you see him running up, and just staying with that shot and watching him run up, and Conan sees it, you know, like turns at the last second and sees him coming. That, again, it's a guy running. It costs you nothing, but it makes that battle seem that much more intense because, you know, it's like there's a tension built into that. So sometimes it's not always the big things that make it big. Sometimes it's the small things too.
It's a lot of small things that add up to a lot of big things.
And I think if you're dismissive, none of this adds anything to it. If you're like, you know, I don't know, if you're in a bad mood when you watch it, or if you're just, you know, like a negative person. But I think for us true believers, it's just like there's just a million pieces of this movie all assembled correctly. Fuck it, it's perfect. You know what I mean?
It's the ultimate Arnold movie, and it was his first movie.
Right.
You know?
And there's not a lot of one line, you know,
like first actual.
There's only
real, honest to God, Arnold movie.
And then, you know, Arnold always gets a bad rep for having the one-liners. There's no one-liners in it. There's one jokey kind of line where he's like, "Are these your robes?" He's like, "Yes, the only things I own." And he hits him and he knocks him out. And he's like, "And they're the only things you need."
Yep.
But that's once. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's like 30% of the lines that he has in the movie.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, Mr. Freeze, where every time he does anything, he has a one-liner. He only has one joke in the whole movie. And that was it.
And most of his lines are crumb. You know?
Yeah.
That's all he said.
He has two speeches, and then he says, like, yes and no. Also, the lamentation to Crom fucking amazing. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing I want to say. Is just he prays to his. They talk about his god Crom, and his dad says, we stole steel from Crom and all this kind of shit, and our gods are in the ground. He says, Crom, I don't pray to you. I don't have the tongue for that. Grant me my revenge, and if not, fuck you, Crom.
It's so good.
And it's just like that's the character where he's like, I'll do it myself.
Yep. It's like if you're not gonna help me, then guess what? I'm on my own.
Then get out of my way.
Get out of the way.
Is there anything that doesn't work in this movie for you? That's the real question.
The fucking ghosts that try to take him away when he's dead.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
That's the bad effect to you?
That's the bad one.
Oh, interesting.
That is, ugh. Watching that again, it's like, God, they look like they're drawn on with like colored pencils on the film.
Yeah.
It's just not a good effect.
I didn't hate that. I'm very neutral on it. I don't, but I don't begrudge you from being negative.
I think all the other effects are just fine. Even the giant snake.
Wait. We'll get there in 1 second.
Right.
We'll get there in 1 second. There is shit slow-mo, but it's actually used in a way that kind of makes sense because Conan sees a jade when they're with the snake. He sees the jade logo of Thulsa Doom, the two snakes, and it takes him back to his childhood, and we get the shit slow-mo in the childhood. So you could argue it's like a faded memory, and I will accept that shit slow-mo. There's also other shit slow-mo when they fight. I do not accept that at all. The giant snake is Bobo as all Bobo gets.
I like the giant snake. They use it just right.
Everyone pines for the days of no CG. Take a look at this dumb-looking snake. Snake looks dumb.
I like that they didn't. Usually in that time they would have used like stop motion, like a Ray Harryhausen.
I think that would have been better.
No, I like the real snake.
Ugh.
I like it just there. And come on, when he cuts the head off, that shit is
when they cut the head off,
hell.
that's the only part that works for me. It feels like a guy has a stick and he doesn't understand how he manipulates. Like it's like one of those things where it's like it's rigged up where if you go left, it'll go right.
Yeah.
So he's just like, what? I don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, Kev. Here's the thing, and this is really interesting to me. When they fight the snake, the music is the same the whole time, right? Like, I think it changes once the snake wakes up. The music starts or whatever, right? But when they kill it, the music does not swell.
Yep.
Which I think is very interesting because the music is not influencing you directly. It's only the background. It's the background music to the scene, right? So the best example of this failing I can bring up is in X-Men 3. When Magneto is making his speech to all the evil mutants, and the music's swelling, and it's like, believe what he's saying stuff that's evil, but like, what he's saying is like, we're the minority and these people will kill us if we don't fight back, which is true from everything we've seen in all of these movies, right?
Yep.
So you're like, no, what he's saying is actually kind of like rational. How he's going about it is not right, but he's not wrong what he's saying right now, right?
Yep.
And that moment...
That's music just trying to manipulate you, basically.
Right.
In the worst possible way, where you can only have this one viewpoint about it.
Right. So when he fights this Bobo snake, in my opinion, and the music is consistent, however you feel about it is however you feel about it. And it doesn't influence you either way, right? So it's not like, oh, isn't this great, you guys? Here, check out these violins to let you know it's great. It's like, no, it's the same shit that it was before. So how do you feel about it?
I think it plays into the idea that this is supposed to be kind of a stealth scene of them like sneaking into this place and not wanting to get caught.
But the same thing happens when he kills the other Bobo special effect in this movie, which is that fake ass buzzard when the buzzard is pecking at him.
Although apparently that was a real dead buzzard.
I don't believe that shit at all. They also said that
it could be real, but yeah, they don't manipulate.
They said that they said those dogs were so vicious. They're so vicious that they had to. One more second and they would have ripped that Conan's dad limb from limb. They would have ripped Conan limb from limb. Bullshit. They don't show those dogs at all in this movie. They show them running, and they show them from behind. I think those dogs were smiling such cute dog smiles that they had to shave frames.
Exactly. I'm sure they did.
But that scene also looked Bobo as fuck when the Blizzard was there. But again, the music doesn't change, right? So it's not like you're like not like the music saying feel bad for Conan, he's about to die or whatever. It's like it's your interpretation of this scene.
Because Conan can take care of himself. So
right.
I don't think we don't ever need the movie to tell us how to feel for Conan.
Right.
And I think in that buzzard scene, I don't think there's any music, if I'm not mistaken.
Spoilers for an upcoming episode. In Mad Max, they also do this, where the music is consistent throughout the whole movie, right? It doesn't change when things change in the scene. And I think that is the G move. I think that's the work, that's the smart play. Is like, let the music be the music. You, as the audience, will fill in the emotion of the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, treating us like we know how to treat it. If you buy into the world, which you should within the first, 10 or 15 minutes, then you're going to carry it yourself,
right.
basically.
One more thing that doesn't really work for me is that Doom's children, when Conan finds them, they say, throw down your sword and join us. Return to the earth. Here, have some flowers. And they're supposed to be hippies, which is totally opposite of what Thulsa Doom's philosophy is, because he's like, I wield the hands. We have all this war stuff. So I'm like, I just didn't. It was a weird disconnect.
Yeah, I think so.
Which I think maybe with more plot they would have. It's one of those things where
it's probably John Milius just raging against hippies.
Yeah. Also, that sex scene does not work at all.
Which one? With the witch or with
no with Senator Bergman. Right. Yeah, just. It's awkward.
Yeah.
Also, I think she's wearing a bra at one point, and it's like, take your fucking leather bra off, or just cut the sex scene short. You know what I mean? One or the other. Listen, I don't need you to take the bra off. I need either this sex scene to be half as long, or if it's gonna be this long, it's like, why would you keep the bra on for this whole time?
And we've already seen her naked at one point, so
it's weird.
Yeah. They had leather bras in this world, apparently.
So those are things I think that are actually wrong with this movie. Are there any nitpicks?
Nitpicks, not especially. Yeah, I think if it goes wrong in all those moments we talked about, except for the snake is cool. Like the snake.
You can like the snake.
They do stand out like a sore thumb. I think it's just a testament to how good everything else is.
I agree with you. My nitpicks are as follows. K-Dog calls a woman a whore. Come on, big guy, you're better than that.
This is the 80s.
It's the 80s, but you're better than that, right? You're better than that.
Yes.
Tulsa Doom tells Conan that he traded the Eye of the Serpent to a girl. How the fuck do you know what he did with the Eye of the Serpent? I mean, magic, you get out of jail free cards to magic. Well, sure. Doom commands thousands, so they show up with 20 dudes to kill Conan and his friend.
Yep. Probably 20 of his best. Everybody else is a bunch of hippies.
Right. I do think the movie falls into it's hard to say because it's you can explain it away. It's just it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
20 of my best guys. We don't want to have the other 10,000 of them just be there just in case it all goes wrong. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Anything that's particularly cool that you want to point out? Just little nitpick cool things.
I just love the music when he finds the tomb. That music is just really strong,
right?
And really, really good. I mean, in what is a strong and beautiful soundtrack, that is one of the absolute highlights.
There are black and Asian people in this universe, unlike Lord of the Rings, where they had not been invented yet. Apparently,
yeah, very wide swath of casting.
Yeah,
just great roles. Again, the sets brilliant. Like the soup, the really green soup that has chunks in it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, not explained. No need to explain that.
No need to explain it.
Finds a horny witch, fucks her, she attacks him, he burns her, her spirit flies away.
Why not? Into the fire.
Why not?
Greatest ending to a sex scene ever. Just she's going crazy and he just goes, nope, and just throws her into the fire.
It's a scene that really makes no sense, but it's so wacky that I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Where she you will do great things, and then I'm going to attack you for no reason.
Yep.
And then I get burned, and you're like, oh, he burned her to death. But then her spirit flies away, so so she's not really hurt at all? And then it never comes back.
Yep. Just establishing there's good magic and terrible magic in this world.
I guess that's what it establishes. I don't know if it establishes anything. KO's a camel. Fuck camels.
Camel punch is a highlight. Yeah, Max von Sydow is take the rubies. I have so many rubies. His whole set and his whole monologue.
And he's he doesn't, the rubies don't even matter to me anymore. I just want my kid.
Yep.
That being said, the cult imagery is great, and his daughter's outfit is sexy.
Sexy. Lots of sexy ladies in this movie.
Indeed. The Crom speech, we talked about this.
Yep.
So good. Snake, arrow made out of a snake arrow. What? Take my money. Come on. Do you think this movie is too serious?
No. I don't think too serious. It's the proper amount of serious.
I agree with you, and I think they do.
Too serious, it'd be...
The Revenant is too serious.
The Revenant is too serious. And, this is people, like, blurbling crying at the end, or just everything, again, music swelling, just way too over-the-top conflict. And this movie exaggerates everything just enough.
Right, and there's not enough talking for anyone to be too serious.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Nobody's crying.
It's like, Conan's not like, I need my revenge. He's like, I'm just going to take it. Like, I don't even need to tell you that I'm going to take it. I'm just going to go do it.
Yep.
And also, there's good jokes in this movie, too. Like, someone's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm dinner for wolves. You're like, that's funny.
Yep.
When what's his face is tied up because he's tied up by the witch.
Yeah.
And then when Valeria's like, do you even know what horrors lie beyond that wall? And they're like, no. And he's like, well, then you can go first. Like, that's funny. It's like, I don't know. I think it's fun.
Just in the brief moments of levity, it is good.
Right. Do you think that the special effects hold up?
All the ones we talked about, I think, do. But yeah, those demons, God, that just hurts every time I watch it.
I don't think those puppets ever held up to begin with. So
I like the snake. What do you think of Thulsa Doom's transformation into a snake?
It's weird because it seems like pointless in this scene. Like, he doesn't need to become a snake in the scene. And then right when Conan gets there, he's slithered away. I do think it's cool. Like, it's kind of like a pre... this is before American Werewolf, right?
Wasn't that 81?
So this is 82, and Werewolf is 81. So they don't do the full...
They set the high bar for a transformation.
Right, and they don't do the full thing. They tease his face turning into a snake face, and then they cut back and he's just a snake head.
Yep.
I think it's cool. Again, you hide it in the edit, but it totally works because you see it happening, and then you cut back and it's happened. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't feel cheated by that.
Yeah, you don't need the full process of him just being a snake, and then you do a smart edit where his hands are disappearing, then he is a snake, another influence cut, and then he's gone as the snake.
Right. I think it works.
Yeah, I mean this movie is like one cool moment after another, just strung in a row. It is just awesome.
What do you think? What's the riddle of steel?
So watching this again, you kind of you never get a direct answer about the answer to the riddle of steel is this. His dad tells him all you can trust is steel. Thulsa Doom tells him all you can trust is flesh. And what I think...
what you should control is flesh.
Yeah.
Because steel is not as powerful as the hand that wields it, and controlling the hand, all of the hands, is true power.
Exactly. And I think Conan learns they're both right in the end.
Right.
It's that you need the brawn and the steel and the tool to work with it. And that's how you become a conqueror. And that's how you become king. Because Conan ends up being king at the end of this movie.
I think it's like a circular thing, right? It's like, steel is not as powerful as the hand that wields it, and controlling all of the hands is true power, but steel can defeat the man at the top.
Yep.
And then that crumbles the whole thing. So it's a riddle. It's a circular logic, right? Where it's like, steel is not as powerful as the hand that wields it, but the hand that wields it could dethrone the leader of the hands.
And I like that they don't try to say, like, and then Conan discovered the riddle of steel.
Yeah.
It's like,
Again, another thing that the movie is like, listen, we'll bring up this concept, but we're not going to flesh it out completely.
Yeah, it's like, you can figure it out.
Yeah, you got it, bro. Do you think this movie's racist? Because there's criticism of this movie being pro-war, racist, and fascist. Do you think it's racist?
I don't think it's racist at all. It has many characters of color, one of which who is in a grand place of power, which is Thulsa Doom.
Right. And it's not like his empire is all black. He is a black guy in charge of it, and then all of his minions are white guys.
Exactly.
So there's not a, like, black... you have to really go deep in, like, a black conspiracy. You know what I mean? Exactly. And it's not there.
I mean, in Conan's other buddy is Asian, and the wizard's Asian, and like there's lots of portrayals all over of people of different skin color. The fact that it has people of different skin color is fascinating enough.
Right.
But they're not all portrayed as,
and
like,
you could go ahead.
as evil people or
right.
things for Conan to slice in half.
And you could get, I guess, upset with like everyone's broken English, but Conan has broken English.
Conan has broken English.
So the only person who doesn't have broken English is Valeria, which is only American in this whole fucking movie.
And like Max von Sydow, and like that's it, And Thulsa Doom.
And Thulsa Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and only the people in power don't speak in broken English.
If it's racist, it's only racist in the way that society is intrinsically racist. You know what I mean? It's not, in the sense of like...
It's that knee-jerk racism, where it's you can never show anybody of a different color in any kind of adverse situation or somehow you're being racist.
Right. But is this movie pro-war?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, right? But
it's brutality and sheer combat skill get you everything you need.
Right.
In this movie.
So in that sense, do you think it's fascist?
Fascist seems like a strong word.
It's not fascist in the sense that...
I think Thulsa Doom's a fascist.
Yeah, because
he's killed.
Because Conan is not necessarily a fascist. And, I mean, he becomes king later. We don't know what kind of king he is. Presumably harsh. But you never know. You know what I mean? Like, that's not explored, really. What do you make of the ending?
The epilogue of just...
No. The ending of the actual story. Oh. So, to recap, Conan sneaks up behind Thulsa Doom. Thulsa Doom says, hey, I created you, you owe me, kind of, in a way, like, you should join my side because I'm basically your father because I created you like a father would create his son. Conan wordlessly slices off Thulsa Doom's head, holds it up, throws it down a flight of steps.
Hammer tosses a torch.
Hold on. Before that, which, by the way, I popped huge when he threw that head. Then the cult throws down all of their torches, right? Which, does that make literal sense? No, I don't think it does. But I think what it speaks to is emotion, which is like the emptiness of revenge. Like, he gets his revenge, and all the cult members just kind of like walk away. Yeah. I think Conan's in that moment is expecting like a fight, and they're like, oh, I guess we lost.
Yep. I mean, it's, again, I think there's no music in that part, and that score too, and like that's influencing how you feel, and it is kind of a hollow feeling. He doesn't get, it takes a couple whacks to get that head off.
Yeah.
And then it's there, and then where's the triumph? This is what he's thought his whole life has been leading up to, and he doesn't feel anything when it's over.
Right.
It's one of the better representations of, that hollow pursuit of revenge.
Yeah. I think you're right. What do you make of the ending where he's sitting on top of the throne?
It implies that, again, given to the vastness of this world, it's like he reigned for however many years, and it just gives you that, like, if we never got a sequel out of it, then that's kind of a satisfying ending,
right? Epic storytelling.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
eventually he becomes a king.
Many years, and that's all you need. And that throne is cool. It's got lions on it,
right?
And again, kind of a surrealistic look. It's just him on his throne alone.
Yeah, in a big black room.
And kind of what we talked about with Thulsa Doom, it's like it's lonely at the top, and if you're the most powerful guy, you're gonna be kind of empty ultimately because nobody can challenge you.
Right.
So yeah, it's just a cool image to end on.
Yeah, I think so too. Evocative. In the end, do you like this movie? It doesn't work.
I love this movie, and it works great. It's always fun to watch it. I always enjoy revisiting it. It, to me, encapsulates the 80s really well, but also stands the test of time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a great film.
If the previous 45 minutes has been any indication, yeah, I think this movie is a masterpiece, really, right? It's like, even if you don't like what this movie's about, in terms of filmmaking,
it's
right?
Incredibly well made.
And I would say it's Miller-esque, right? It's like a Mad Max movie. You know what I mean? It's like
not as frantic as a Mad Max.
Not as frantic, but it doesn't. The action speaks for everything, right? Mm-hmm. The characters don't say anything, but you understand exactly what's going on at every moment. And I think that's just crazy good.
Yeah, there's a lot of skill behind that camera. Something your average quote-unquote conservative filmmaker doesn't usually have. But John Milius has it in spades.
Right.
He knows how to work a camera, how to work editing, how to shoot a set. It's extremely well made.
What do we learn from this, Kev? What did we learn?
Crom. We learned Crom.
That's all you learned?
Follow Crom.
I think that what I learned is that there's no need for talking. And when they say it's show and don't tell, but it's really show and just shh.
Yep.
Shh.
Just watch.
Yeah.
Show and watch.
Any crazy film theory or sequel pitch or remake idea?
I just love the idea. If this future Conan story does happen, Conan should go out in like a blaze of glory, and then that's Arnold Schwarzenegger's last movie. I think that'd be cool. That'd be a really good capper on his career.
Do you think that he's capable of such a thing, though?
I think he is. I think he could do it. He can pull it off.
You think he's actually capable of giving it up?
Is he capable of getting it up? No, but I think it'd be the perfect exclamation point to his career.
I think that the Lego sequel would totally work if they made a movie like this movie, right?
No, not a bunch of Bobo Gods of Egypt CGI.
Right. Just
we need some.
Keep it simple, right? Keep it tastefully done. Keep it upbeat and fun, but totally serious, but in that fun way. The way that this movie does it, right? We've talked about this for the last fucking hour now. And if George Miller could direct it, then there is a God in the sky.
That'd be pretty badass.
Crom, I don't ask you for anything, but that's the only logical director, because the style of this movie just reminds me of Mad Max, and I don't think anyone else is capable of it that I know. You know what I mean? Maybe someone young, and you say, hey man, you got to make it like this movie, how it's done stylistically.
Joe Carnahan, maybe.
Maybe.
He's never done a big like epic action movie.
I think someone has to submit. If you could submit yourself to this ideal, I think the movie would be good, no matter what.
It'd be great if John Milius could come back, but he is not of sound-minded body.
Is he alive still?
He's still alive. He had a stroke though, and like has trouble talking, so he's kind of incapacitated, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's not good. But
shit.
Yeah, he's 71. I mean, that's sad. But it would have been great
cool if he could come back.
It would have been great if he could come back.
I mean, Akira Kurosawa was blind when he made Ran, and that movie's beautiful. So the idea that he's not capable of it, I mean, I don't know what his situation is, but if he can somehow get better and come back for it, I think that would be awesome too.
Did you know that he was instrumental in starting up the UFC, according to Wikipedia?
I didn't know that. No.
It was his idea to use an octagonal-shaped cage, and he helped provide interest in investors to start up UFC. That is crazy.
That's pretty cool. That seems like something he'd be into.
Anyways, I before we did this episode, I didn't love this movie as much as I do now. And again, it's something I want to kind of study. Like, how do they do it? You never feel cheated by all the edits. Everything hidden in the edit, you never feel cheated.
And yeah, it is a movie. It's like, why, like we talked about at the beginning of this half, why is it good? And I think that's its own like riddle of steel, basically. Is
right.
Why is Conan the Barbarian awesome? Because it's not super obvious, but you just feel it.
I agree. It's not super obvious. It's subtle.
You feel like Arnold when you watch it. You're buff when you got abs.
Mm-hmm. Also, like, when he's like, there's two snakes facing each other, and he flexes.
Yep.
It's like, because that was an accident. All right. You got anything else, Kev?
Nope. Just it's a good start to our Summer of '82 special.
I mean, this is going to be tough.
We've got some wacky ones coming up.
Tron, I don't know what's going to happen with you.
Oh, boy.
You got some fucking shoes to fill.
We'll find out.
That's it for this episode. Please come back and join us on the next episode. Follow us on Twitter at Speaking Cinema. We are on Stitcher, iTunes, rate, review, subscribe. Listen to us Jibber Jabber every single Monday. This episode written by our very own Kev. Music by Jeff Russell, hosted by me, Mr. Double J, and Kev. For me and for Kev, see you next time.
You can listen to us, but if you don't, then to hell with you!
Keep it Crom.